You know, as Kim and I will tell you, we've hit the wall so many times. And rule number one is you can't say, I can't afford it. Never say that. Never. Because only poor people say that and losers say that. And we don't want you to be a poor person or a loser. That's why they're too comfortable. Oh, this is too hard, so I think I'll quit. Or, you know, I want people to like me. If you've really understood what entrepreneurs do, you know, I just read this article about Elon Musk, you know, Tesla and SpaceX. He was going broke. He put all of his money from PayPal into Tesla and SpaceX and almost lost it all, but he never stopped. His friends said he was crazy, but he never stopped. So one thing you can do is read stories of great entrepreneurs. Henry Ford went bankrupt 5 times, you know? And so all you guys out there go, oh, I just want to be comfortable. You know? Elon Musk had to call all of his friends. Well, it's the same thing I had to do. Is when I lost nearly $1 million, I had to call all my friends and tell them I lost their money. And I said, do you want your money back? Most said no, but thank God we paid back the money. I don't know how we did, but we vowed to do it. A vow is a promise you make to God, your spirit. So there's, you know, I had one of the lowest days of my life was after my wallet business collapsed. My Harley Davidson got repossessed. Now, then they repossessed my Harley and they repossessed my Porsche. When you get that low, you only got 3 ways you can go. You can go down, you can go sideways and say, oh, it doesn't make any difference, or you can say, this is a great experience. And now I'm going to develop my spirit, my resolve, and my mindset, and I'm going to make losing my Porsche and my Harley Davidson the best thing that ever happened to me. And then you go up. But if you have one of those loser mentalities, oh, you know, they did this and that, you shouldn't be an entrepreneur because you can turn into a crook and a loser, you know? So anything bad that happens to us, we make it a good thing, right? Yeah. I've been at below rock bottom. I started the first nylon and Velcro surfer wallet business. And I was in my 30s. Business went straight up and went down below zero. You know, how can you lose more money? Investor money. So I was down $800,000 at 32 years old. And my rich dad and my poor dad, you know, my poor dad was a great guy. He's a school teacher, head of education for the state of Hawaii. And my poor dad felt sorry for me. And my rich dad says, hey, congratulations. You lost your first business. See, it's in the mindset. He says most entrepreneurs will lose 3 businesses. So rather than run and declare bankruptcy, he says, look, go talk to all your investors, tell them you messed up, you know, tell them you're going to work it out, you're going to pay them back, and go fix that business of yours. So rather than run and hide like some of my partners did, this is in Hawaii where I started the Velcro wallet business. I had to go back in and kind of find out most of the mistakes I made. And then when I could pay people back, because the business was up and running, then I started to pay people back from the successful operation. So I learned more from failing than I did in all my years of school. So that was really good. And then I took my little nylon wallet company out of the surfer market, and I took it into rock and roll, of all things. So then I learned how another whole end of entrepreneurship, and that's what paid off my $800,000 in debt. So I always look at failure as an opportunity to learn and get bigger. Unfortunately, our school system teaches kids that if you make mistakes, you're stupid. And in real life, the people that make the most mistakes are the smartest people. Very quickly, I'll go into a financial statement. And this is the basis of wealth here. So what happens to most people is they say their house is an asset and all this. My rich dad said, your house is not, whether a house is an asset or not, has nothing to do with this thing here. It has to do with the most single important word in business, and that word is called, what's the word? Cash flow. It's cash flow determines it. So, very simply, when I was 9 years old, my rich dad said an asset is something that flows money into your pocket, and a liability is something that takes money from your pocket. Just because your banker or your accountant says your house is an asset doesn't mean it's an asset. So when I read a financial, I see something listed here, and then I see whether it lodges up here. Now, if it doesn't lodge up here, then it must be going this way. It's going out the expense with no income. Does that make sense, you guys here? It's a very simple way of looking at it. Now, taking it one step further, this is where the confusion sets in, is very simply because if you buy a house for, let's say, $100,000, and you get an $80,000 mortgage on it, you put $20,000 down, the problem is your house is listed both asset as well as liability, and that's where the confusion starts. It's listed in both sides, and that's the problem. So the thing here is this, and by the way, the word mortgage comes from the French word mortir, which means death. So that means you're engaged until you're dead with the house, and it's staggering. So let's say you buy this little green house here. Okay. The way you know it's an asset or liability is, let's say I use it as a rental property, and after paying all taxes, taxes, insurance, and expenses, and all this stuff, I make $100 a month. It shows up over here under income of $100 a month. Now, if let's say I have a tenant who trashes the place, doesn't pay me rent, takes me a year to evict the bugger, immediately that house becomes a what? Liability. So the house can be either asset or liability, but it's not because it's an asset or liability listed here. What determines if it's an asset or liability is income and expense. So what makes a person struggle financially is that what they do is they go out and buy a house, and they call it an asset. So you have a house mortgage over here. You buy a car, you call it an asset. You buy yourself a Gucci suit, that's called an asset. You get a gold watch, it's an asset, and all this. But they're really what? Liabilities. And so what happens is, I can tell if a person's rich or poor or middle class very simply by reading the financial. I can look at the financial and see this. If money's coming in and money's going out, this is the cash flow pattern of a poor person. It's not how much money you make. It's how you spend your money. I know a doctor here in Arizona, he makes over $500,000 a year, but he spends $525,000 a year. It comes in and it goes what? Out. He thinks like a poor person. Okay. The average middle class person, because they have a job and the bankers like people with jobs and all this, they get all this stuff. This is their cash flow pattern. They have huge long-term liabilities. They're illiquid. Okay. And this is the cash flow pattern of the great middle class who think they're rich. My rich dad said, it's just because you live in a big house, have a nice car, and wear nice clothes, doesn't mean you're rich. You could be broke, more poor than the poor person. So the difference was, for me, was that I spent my life learning how to acquire assets, so I don't need a job. The object was never to work for money. It was to learn to acquire assets that put money in my pocket, either stocks, bonds, real estate, businesses. So this is the cash flow pattern of the rich. The question, the way to find out how rich you are is this: is let's say you're married, husband and wife. If the two of you stop working, what happens? See, if my wife and I stop, income still keeps coming, because it's not dependent upon us working. The average person, all their assets, they realize if they stop working, are really liabilities. As my rich dad said, assets feed you if you stop working, liabilities eat you. And the reason they can't stop working is because the liabilities eat them. So the definition of wealth is how long can you survive without working? And it's measured in days or years in time. So when I retired in '94, my wealth was infinite. In other words, I always had more than enough money coming in that was greater than my expenses. And that's a way of thinking.
How do you determine if a person would be a good partner? Do you have a certain strategy or a checklist that you go through? Thank you.
You're going to pick a big, good partner. You can be an entrepreneur. Make sure they don't need a paycheck. Because when money does come in, they get desperate. They start seeing all this money start to pile up, and they want to take it, they want to spend it. So you've really got to check out the needs of this person. Be very, very careful. Also their mindset, but most importantly their growth set. Are they into growth? And are they honorable people? When I first met Donald Trump, the first thing he asked, are you good people? That's what he wants to know.
Yes, and I would also say this, if you're saying, how do you find a good partner? Well, you also have to be a good partner.
Yeah.
So it may be, are you stepping up to the quality of partner that you're looking for? Because sometimes, for example, I'll give you a quick story, is we have a neighbor, very, very successful in the world of investing, and he and his partners own sports teams. They've built sports arenas. 10 years ago, he would never have talked to us. So 2 years ago, he came to us, knocked on our door, knock, 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 and said, we've got this deal we're working on, 2 golf courses and a resort. Went through the whole pitch, was very professional, of course, but the point I'm making is we did become his partner in this deal. So we did become his partner in this deal. Years ago, 10 years ago, we would not have been at the quality of partner he was looking for. So it took us being more successful in business. It took us working on ourselves professionally, working on ourselves personally, to get to the point where we could be the partner that other people wanted to have.
Well, in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I came out in 1997, and I said, your house is not an asset. And it drove people nuts. It just went crazy on me, because that's a common belief. But when you can't make your house payments, you find out is the biggest liability you got, and many of the times.
It's turned out to be very much more correct than you even thought.
Right.
When you look at what's happened to home prices.
Right. And Donald and I love real estate. I love real estate. I think it's the best thing going, better than sliced bread. But if you're not smart with it, it's like a loaded gun. You can protect yourself or you can kill yourself with it. So real estate is, to me, the best vehicle, but you've got to be smart with it, because we're using debt. And debt is a two-edged sword out there. So you use debt, I use debt, but the more debt you use, actually you have to be smarter. So you can use debt to get richer. You can also use debt to wipe you out. So that's why I continue on saying we need financial education. To just say to somebody, get out of debt, well, that's not accurate. You use debt, don't you?
Debt is a great thing, and to be big and to be very successful, debt is a very useful weapon. But you have to be very careful.
That's correct.
Marketing, sales, advertising. We have somebody that's got a growing small business. Now they want to take it to the next level. One of the things that I've always found fascinating about your business is that you're everywhere. I pick up a magazine, there's an advertisement for Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminars. I go onto the internet, it's social. What's your philosophy when it comes to selling your product? And what does somebody growing a small business need to know?
Well, I always say the number one skill of an entrepreneur is the ability to sell or communicate. Number one. Because sales equals income. So if your sales are down, your income's down. But it's not just selling your customer, you got to sell your employees. That's really tough, And then next is selling my investors. So I'm selling investors, I'm selling employees, I'm selling customers, and I'm selling myself. I got to talk myself into, I don't have the pleasure of being down. Entrepreneurs have got to be up. Because if you're down, your employees know it, your customers know it, the market knows it. So number one is sales. But when you look at the big picture, there's 3 things an entrepreneur must learn. Number one is PR. And what you're talking about is PR. The other day, Fox News interviewed me to find out if I would endorse my friend Donald Trump for president. You know how much that's worth? They co-branded us. Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, and Trump. That's incredibly priceless. So getting PR is a number one skill. Under that is marketing. And what marketing does is like advertising. They want to set the customer up to get ready to buy. Oh yeah, I saw that Kia ad. I want to buy a Kia. I want to buy some land, I want to buy this. So the customer is now primed to buy. That's marketing's job. Then the last thing is a sale. So if you've done a really good job on PR, then you've done a great job on marketing. The sale is like that. They walk in, they buy. But if you have no PR and you have no marketing, you have to pound, hard close. Well, Mr. Customer, today's changing business environment, you should buy my insurance and all. And people today hate sales pitches more than ever before. So the number one sales job of a true entrepreneur is to develop your ability to get PR. Like for me right now, this is PR. Okay. Then it's marketing. Marketing is kind of what I pay for. It's kind of, I want to craft my message out there. So I'll pay to have an ad go on or do this, just to prime the mind to make the sale easier. And I'll say it again, most entrepreneurs are not good at sales. They're horrible at marketing. They have no idea what it is. And they can't get any PR. And so they struggle. And again, sales equals income. So they crash.